Hello, I am the Dungeon Master. I will be guiding you through your adventures today. What adventure, you may ask? Adventures that will take you to concepts of planning and logical thinking. An adventure that will lead you to the greatest reward of all, becoming just like me. I know, you take one look at me and you think, I want to be just like that guy. Today, I will teach you how to become a Dungeon Master. I've implemented this activity, Dungeons and Dragons, the form that I created, from ages 4 till 12. Now, you can make the rules as simple or as complicated as you want and adapt them for different learning styles and to allow for emergent learning. You can incorporate all different aspects into the game and do anything to the game that you want. The rules are supposed to be malleable. You can change the rules of the game to make it more inclusive as well. Maybe for children with exceptionalities such as ADHD, you can make Dungeons and Dragons more of a game where you dress up in costume and you move around and play. And you can also change it. I've implemented Dungeons and Dragons for a child with selective mutism who really loved the game. And for him, we incorporated an aspect where you're writing things down and passing them to the Dungeon Master, or you can pass these notes to your friends as well to tell them things within the game. It's really fun. The children, it's one of their favorite games. They always ask to play it, and even now, when I return every now and then to the daycare, we'll tell stories of old adventures we went on in Dungeons and Dragons. The children really guide the game as well. You just need to be creative, but I'll get into how it teaches the children math as I teach you how to play the game itself. Now, Dungeons & Dragons is a game that has captivated the youth since its invention in the 70s, but there's something important to understand about Dungeons & Dragons. It's more than just a game that you can buy from the store. Dungeons & Dragons is a concept. I have invented a way to play Dungeons & Dragons with the children at my childcare facility, and I will be imparting that information onto you. It's super simple. You can buy textbooks and textbooks of knowledge about Dungeons and Dragons, about all different rule sets and ways to play the game. But all you really need is a great, big imagination. And some pencils and papers and dice can add to the game as well. Dungeons and Dragons is a role-playing game. It involves all the domains of learning. It's a storytelling game, and we're going to be focusing on the domain of cognition because Dungeons and Dragons is an amazing game to get children engaged with their learning when it comes to doing number operations and doing math. By the way, I'm not just wearing this for fun. This is my Dungeon Master costume. So if you're going to be a Dungeon Master, make your own costume up. So the first thing you're going to want to do is have your children create their characters. The character sheet is that I created or made up to make the game a lot simpler. Just has 4 components, and then at the top here, a place to put their name and their health. This character was a fairy. It was created by a 5-year-old, I believe. It was created a little bit ago now, this character sheet. But here's that same character later as it's leveled up. It's at level 2 now. Now, the 4 components of the character sheet are a spot to draw your character, a spot to draw any of the pets your character may have. Here are a level 1 character gets to come up with 3 special abilities. They can be whatever they want. And here we have their items, anything that their character is carrying on them, which can be anything they want as well. Here's that same character, the balloon character. There's a spot to put their character's name up here that they've made up. Look at the items here. Underwear, time machine, bananas. The children are super creative and super fun to play with, and they can make their character sheet however they want. This character is based off Perry the Platypus from the show Phineas and Ferb. Now this is one of the things I really made up for the version of Dungeons and Dragons I play with the kids. It got bit by my cat here, but I have some other examples, and it's a template for their characters, for their character sheets, and some of the children did want to use the template. Here, as you can see, is the spot for the items, spot for their character, their health, their magic, and their life points, or their levels. And here is their pet. Here, there's pet special ability, and their abilities. An XP bar that fills up as we go through our adventures. Here's another character sheet. These are just all examples that I've kept over the years of characters that the children have created. And some of them I helped them create the characters. This is a monster that one of the children drew for the game. Now, the reason that I'm showing you this is just to show how engaged the children were with this activity and how much they really love Dungeons and Dragons. But I'd like to now talk about the math implication for even creating your character in Dungeons and Dragons. I guess I'll just use this character sheet to explain. So, with Dungeons and Dragons, I really like to have a variety of dice available to the children. Even though we're making up what everything does, a lot of the actions and the way you play the game is made exciting with the use of dice. So when you first make your character up, or when the children are making up their characters, they have health, magic points, and then abilities, and all of these are influenced with the roll of a dice. So a level 1 character starts with 20 health, and then they roll a d20, or any dice you have available. If you don't have a d20, you can just use a 6-sided dice from a game of Monopoly, or something like that. So they would have 20, and then they would roll, and here's 15. So the children would have to add 15 to 20, and that would be their character's total health. So there's an element of probability happening here too, and the same happens with magic points. So 10, and then every time they level up, they get to roll the dice again and add more points onto their health and to their magic. For the abilities, we can come up with all different types of abilities for our characters. For example, on this character, that the child used one of the templates I created for them. They have the ability to fly, lightning, and force field. So the lightning, we decided it would be fair if you got to roll 1d12 when you cast the lightning spell. And whatever you roll is how much of a lightning blast you do to the monster you may be encountering. Or you can use the lightning to blast through walls, or do all sorts of creative things in the game, like charge up a thundercloud or whatever. And all of your abilities will have different stats associated with it that you can make up yourself. I will now explain to you how I play my version of Dungeons and Dragons so that it is incredibly engaging for the children. Keep it incredibly open-ended, and the story can go anywhere you want. You can draw the characters or the monsters you encounter on the fly, or you can look up pictures online on a tablet to use for the things that you encounter. Or you can have the children create whatever they're encountering. So now that we've got the character creation out of the way, here's another character template I made for the children at my daycare. This is the mission accomplisher, which is something that was made up by the children in my care. It's the thing that tells them the missions they go on. So in Dungeons and Dragons, the group of children are going to go on an adventure together. They're going to be given a mission. For example, they could be given a mission by the map tree. In this adventure that we had with the children, they were sent by the Queen of the Land to go and retrieve a map, a special map from the map tree, and they saw all sorts of characters there. All of this I drew, so it's super cheap to create. And here's the map that they were given. It grew on the tree, and they went off on their adventure. Now, on their adventure, they're going to encounter obstacles, which is how they're going to gain experience to level up. Now, this obstacle was a riddle, and also the children could encounter it in different ways. So this man made a massive mountain grow in the way by dropping his potion on the ground, and the children were unable to pass, and they had to tell me how their character would get past the mountain. Now, they could try different things, but I said you needed to roll higher than the man in order to pass him. So they would take turns. You would roll whenever you encounter someone to see who goes first. And as the dungeon master, you play as all of the other characters except for the characters the children are playing. And you can do voices for the characters as well if you're so inclined. So say the child tries to fly over the mountain with their ability. They would both roll. So the child got a 1 and the man got a 7. So that makes them think about probability as well. What are the chances I'm going to beat this person? They may acquire items that do different things. So perhaps if they got boots with wings on them, their flying could have +5. So they would get +5 to whatever they rolled and have to add it on. But seeing as they couldn't fly over the mountain this time, maybe the man also threw some of the potion up into the air, and it created a massive cloud barrier that they couldn't surpass, even though their try was really, really awesome. He did something to block them. As you go on, you also, this is a shop that I created. The children can go into towns and explore different shops. This is a talisman shop where they can buy different amulets. And the different items will do all sorts of things, like the amulet of accuracy gives them more accuracy to whatever they're doing. And it also, some of the items themselves will involve dice rolls. So all of these +1s, -1s, add a d6. They're looking at all these items and they're thinking, what's going to make my character, what will give my character the best chances to succeed on its adventure. So there's a lot of math that's happening there. Here's another shop I made. Some wizards they encountered, and somebody who gave them a mission. Now, there can be battles in Dungeons and Dragons. If your daycare is open to that, I think it's fine for children to imagine adventures and battles. They find it really fun. Or you can make it just challenges, so there doesn't have to be any fighting involved in the game. You could say that the mission was to make the best soup, and perhaps they are trying to make an amazingly tasty soup here, and they're throwing the bones in, and you have to roll to see what type of soup you make and what type of all of this you kind of can make up on the fly and listen to what the children are saying, because they really always guide the adventure whenever I'm playing. So a lot of these things I've drawn up on the spot when the children are telling me what's happening. And again, you can look stuff up if you don't like to draw. Here is a wizard that became their friend, and also a ship that they went on, and as they level up, the numbers were getting bigger and bigger, and we even got into multiplication. So we would say that as their character got more powerful, now you don't just roll one dice, you roll a bunch and add them up. And then after that, we were doing it so you have to roll the 4-sided or the 8-sided dice and then times it by 10. So 5 would be 50, or you could times it by any number. Here's a shop I drew up with armor in it. Now, your version of Dungeons and Dragons doesn't have to be just like mine. As you go at the end of every adventure, your challenge, your character is going to get experience points, which there is a place for on the template here. So you can color in experience points until your bar is full, or you can just keep a track of the number of experience points your character has. I believe that some of the children's sheets here will have the number of experience points they have written on it somewhere. Some of them kept a separate sheet with their experience points on it because they didn't want to draw too much on their sheet. But yeah, it's been awesome learning that I could play with children. There's a Dungeons and Dragons with children. There's a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons from the actual game itself online resources for the educational benefits of playing Dungeons and Dragons with children. Just a quick aside, these are some of the templates I created for the children to use. Here's one. Here's another. And here is a child used my iPad to create their character sheet. They wanted to play as Metroid. I thought that was cool. Lastly, I just wanted to say, you can call the game that I play with the children Dungeons and Dragons. That's what I call it because it's familiar to some of them. So they'll want to be more likely to want to play when they first hear it. But the game is really far removed from how people usually play Dungeons and Dragons. So really, I kind of made it up myself to play with them. I just wanted to show, I've known that card games and role-playing games often help with math skills ever since they helped me when I was a kid playing with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. You had to subtract and add thousands of life points in order to play the game, and I got really quick at number operations when I was a kid because I was always the one who kept track of the score in Yu-Gi-Oh. Here's a game that I actually created as well called Monster Quest. I designed this box and everything. It was the box that held all the dice in, but I'll show you. Monster Quest is a card game that's also kind of a role-playing game, and I've played it with the children at my daycare. That also involves dice, and it's played on this board which I made, and basically I made it with close landscapes, and you can build lands, and here's a fox, and move your creatures around the board. But I know that this was a lot of information, so it may sound hard to become a dungeon master yourself, but to put it simply, you just need to tell a story to the children and let them make choices. But if they ever come across an obstacle, for example, there's a fire and they need to put it out, based on what they tell you they want you to do, it's your job to come up with the probability of that action. So, for example, if they want to try and put out the fire, if they try using a spell like wind on the fire, there's a chance they can put it out, but if they use a spell that's based on water, the chance will be higher. So if they use a wind spell, if they roll low on the dice, there's a chance that the fire will become stronger. But if they roll high on the dice, they can blow the fire right out. But if they use a water spell, their chances will be a lot better to be successful. And you can build entire stories around this, and it's really cool to see the children thinking about probability matched with actions they're making in their imagination. It makes it makes you start using your imagination as almost a physics calculator that incorporates chance and probability, and I think it's really good for the development of their brain. And that's why I've incorporated a lot of role playing and strategy games into my child care program. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day. I use the official Dungeons & Dragons website as my resource. Here you can see in the domain name that the resources included being a DM for kids and resources to educators. Dungeons & Dragons knows themselves that this game is great for brain development in children.